morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I want to show you a really, really fun new deck that's just come around, that someone's actually going to want to link up with. And we're not looking at a Japanese deck today. We are looking at a deck which is legal and winning in North America, Europe, etc. right now. And oh my goodness, this is a fun one. Now, the list was posted by Kyle Beaumont over on Verbank on Facebook, and it's all based, I kid you not, around Poipole. It's literally a Poipole deck. Your main attacker, your main boy here, is Poipole. I adore this, ladies and gentlemen. I absolutely adore it. Poipole, now it has to be the one from Forbidden Light. That's really important. It's got the attack Knockout Reviver. During your opponent's next turn, if this Pokemon is knocked out, your opponent can't take any prizes for it. It means your opponent doesn't take a prize. Now, you're not going for prizes here, alright? That is not your goal. You are not attempting to take a prize. You're not trying to do anything else. You are trying to just stick in the active and stop your opponent taking a prize, ever. And then they run out of cards in their deck, they deck out, and you win the game. Cool. So the goal of this deck really needs to be, let's have a Poipole every turn. So let's have Malamar, shall we? Malamar becomes really important here because Malamar accelerates a Psychic Energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. And Poipole has a 2-energy attack. And Poipole has to have a 2-energy attack, right? If this had a single energy attack, people would have made decks like this long ago, and it wouldn't really be fair, and it would be kind of annoying, and it would be far too good, and no. We cannot have this as a single energy attack. Although, as a side note, we have just had it released as a shiny in Shiny Vault. And oh my goodness, it is a thing of absolute beauty. In fact, it's so beautiful, that's the one I'm going to leave on the screen for the rest of the video because I love it. So you've got Malamar accelerating 1 energy, you attach the other from your hand, and that's where Recycle Energy becomes really good. Recycle Energy is great here. It's a colorless energy, it's a special energy, and when it gets discarded from play, it bounces back to your hand. So you use Malamar to put 1 energy on all your bench Poipole, and then you've got a Recycle Energy hopefully in your hand all the time, and that means that you've always got it ready to attach. Even if your opponent plays something like a Reset Stamp, they play Reset Stamp to give you a new hand, but then they KO Poipole, and at that point Recycle Energy goes to your hand, so you actually get it back after the Reset Stamp, and that's going to help greatly. And at this point, your opponent basically takes no prizes from your active, so the only way they win is by gusting or by hoping your loop fails. If your loop fails, you lose. Simple as that. But if your loop stays strong, they've got to go after your bench. Now, side note here, you kind of need Mew. Mew becomes pretty gosh darned important, because otherwise your opponent can sit there and just take out the bench, and if they can take out the bench, that's going to lead them to victory. Something like the Naganade or the new GX, now they will run into a little bit of trouble with not necessarily having enough triple acceleration energy, but as long as they can get a few of them, and to be honest with stuff like Beast Ring and just manual attachments because your opponent is never trying to KO you, yeah, it's very likely that without Mew, something like Naganadel can just snipe the bench for all their prizes. So you need Mew. But the other things here are gusting. Custom Catcher, you're not that worried about Custom Catcher. Custom Catcher is going to get 2 prizes, assuming none of them are prized. You got to play 2 at the same time. You can play 2, you can gust twice, and maybe you can run your opponent out of Malamar or take out their only Mew and then start hitting the bench, etc. But unless you can use those to disrupt the loop, using them to take 2 prizes won't be good enough. So what about Ninetales then? Because Ninetales from Team Up, discard 2 fire energy from your hand, and then you get to pull a Pokemon off the bench. This should destroy it, right? This should take your opponent's bench Pokemon, get rid of them, and mean that this deck takes an auto loss to anything playing Ninetales. And that's quite a lot of decks at the moment. And the answer is, well, no. Because we've got Lunatone. And Lunatone's got a rather phenomenal ability. If you have Solrock in play, fire Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's, have no abilities except Pokemon GX and Pokemon EX. It turns off abilities of non-GX fire Pokemon, most of which are not relevant at the moment. And when I looked at this card a little while ago when it came out in Celestial Storm, I said, well, non-GX fire abilities not that relevant. Well, now they are because of Ninetales. Now, incidentally, you have to play Solrock. We don't really care about Solrock. We don't really care about what Solrock does. I mean, it's all right. It gives your Lunatone extra HP, but that's not the reason we're playing it. We're playing it because we need Solrock to have Lunatone working. Now, you do need to control your bench a little bit here, because in a bunch of matchups, you're going to need Solrock, Lunatone, and Mew. That's half your spaces in total. That's 3 of 6 Pokemon before you get your Malamar and your Poipole. But a bit of practice and you'll be able to manage your bench nicely. Now, there are a couple of other Pokemon here to help you get rolling. We play 4 copies of Jirachi. Jirachi's pretty gosh darned important, if I'm honest with you. It's got the ability, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer card, put it into your hand. Jirachi is really, really important for getting set up. And this is a deck that needs to get set up. We then have the Wobbuffet that essentially turns off Prism Star Pokemon. Wobbuffet, I love this Wobbuffet. It's seeing more and more play as time goes by. It's one from Lost Thunder, and it basically says that if it's on your bench, any Prism Star Pokemon in play, yours and your opponent's, cannot attack and have no abilities. We're not playing Prism Stars, so you're fine. And then we've got one Latios GX. Latios GX has a really nice ability whereby it turns off your opponent's GX attacks with its GX attack. Now, you can use Tag Purge, 120 damage during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from Tag Team Pokemon. But that shouldn't be too relevant, because you should have the loop going. But to buy yourself a couple of turns, yeah, this can be good. Or you can use Clear Vision to turn off your opponent's GX attacks, and some of them could be kind of annoying. Now, in terms of trainer cards here, there's nothing particularly out of the ordinary, with the exception of 2 copies of Jesse and James. Jesse and James from Hidden Fates. Both players discard 2 cards from their hand. It's a little bit of hand disruption. It's fine. But it's also played with 3 copies of Lusamine here. Remember, Lusamine is banned in Expanded. Lusamine is not banned in Standard. Because you see, when you're rolling, you don't need much at all here. When you're rolling, all you really need is a new Poipole every turn. And you've got Jirachi. And the ideal situation here is that you've got a Malamar on the bench and a Jirachi with an escape board. Obviously, we're playing a skateboard. And then your opponent takes a KO but doesn't take a prize. Jirachi goes in the active with an escape board, uses the ability. While it's in the active using the ability, you bench a Poipole, attach with Malamar, attach a Recycle Energy which should be in your hand, free retreat Jirachi, and keep going. You just need Poipoles. So as long as you've got a Poipole, you can just use Jesse and James. You don't need to be using supporters, because you can use Jesse and James. Again, if you don't have a Poipole, you cannot use Jesse and James. Got to get yourself a Poipole to keep the lot going. But as long as you've got the lot going, and like I say, all you need is a Poipole. Everything else should be basically guaranteed. So as long as you've got a Poipole, you can just use Jesse and James and just hurt your opponent's hand. And this is a classic, look, you're not taking any prizes, but I still want to try and slow you down a little bit. It is much less likely that your opponent is going to be able to find an answer to your really annoying loop if you're constantly discarding cards from their hand. It's kind of fun. And after that, everything else is pretty much like it should be. Yeah, we play a couple of Brock's Grit, but we need to keep getting our Poipole rolling. And the thing is here, your opponent might be knocking out 8, 9, 10 or more Poipole. It's not just the usual 6, so a couple of Brock's Grit is pretty relevant. We're playing Mysterious Treasure because it searches out our Poipole, that's quite big. And we're playing Beast Ball so that if one of them ends up prized, we can search it out nicely. Energy Spinner will get us energy nice and easily in the early game. And we do play a Viridian Forest to both discard energy and also to search energy. Our main stadium of choice here is Ultra Space, of course. Like I've said, we need to get the Poipole every turn. Once we've got the Poipole, we've got the lock rolling, and we can afford to play Jesse and James. Incidentally, if you can keep an Ultra Space on the board, it is going to mean that you've got literally everything you need. You'll have the Malamar, you'll have the Recycle Energy, you'll have the Jirachi with a skateboard ready to retreat, and you'll have the Ultra Space to find the Poipole, and you literally need nothing to keep the lock rolling. Outside of that, we got a couple copies of Cynthia and Lily. They're still the best draw supporters we've got, so they're still the ones you're going to want to be playing here. And we've got Bill's Analysis as a little bit of early game, hey, let's go and get some trainer cards. And we've got a copy of Pokemon Center Lady, which can be quite nice for a little bit of healing or getting around special conditions. I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, it's not the biggest card in the deck, but it's nice to have there. Incidentally, it was just reprinted in Hidden Fates. That's how Pokemon Center Lady is legal again. Oh, and Pokemon Communication, because we need to get set up here. And it's quite nice, because if you've got stuff like Ultra Space, Pokemon Communication becomes a much easier card to use, because you can Ultra Space searching for a Poipole and then swap it for whatever you actually want. I adore this deck. I love the inventiveness of this deck. I don't know if I've got the patience or nerves to play it myself, but I do love inventive decks like this. Congratulations to Kyle for crushing with it. Although now he's gone and made a League Cup winner out of it and given the list out, probably going to be seeing a bit more of this deck running around. Hey-ho. For now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to know what you think about this. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.